Hello and welcome back to the Craft Mannequin. It's been a while since I posted my last tutorial because I've been working on a very large project. So, as you can see by the title of the video, I've built a life-size C-3PO from foam. It took me about 2 to 3 months, and that's why I haven't posted in a while. Then I was abroad as well, but now I'm back and you can see this whole process. I will split this video into 2 parts. This is the first one, and you will get the second one in about a week or so. I was commissioned to do this project, and C-3PO was exhibited at the Esplora Interactive Science Centre during the Superheroes in Star Wars and Science event that took place on the 28th, 29th, 30th of November and the 1st of December. The main material I used for this project was floor mat foam, so let's get straight into the intro and you can see how I made it. For the main structure I will be using a mannequin, and I will start with the hands to make them more C-3PO-like. So first I mark where I need to cut to create the bent elbows, and then I cut them with a hacksaw. To reattach the arm, I cut a piece of wood that I fit inside the hand. Then I made 2 holes that go through the fiber and the wood, so that I could attach a bracket to the arm. Then I did the same for the other half, and attached both pieces. To make sure that the arm was secure, I put another bracket at the elbow. Then I added some hot glue to seal everything. To cover the feet, I'm using a pair of old boots, which I spray painted gold. Then I put some duct tape at the top of the boots so I could secure it to the mannequin. C-3PO's torso is filled with wires, so I just added these with some hot glue. To cover up the hips, I used a yoga mat. And then I added the details that needed to be cut later on. I only cut halfway through the foam, so that then I could heat the foam up and the panel lines just open up. This also helps to seal the foam for spray painting. Once the foam had been painted with gold and it had dried, I glued the foam to the rest of the mannequin with hot glue. For the shin, I designed this shape from floor mat foam. Then I traced it onto the other piece so I could have 2 copies. Then I cut out the shape. The shins have some panel lines on them, so I made these lines from 2mm craft foam and glued them on with super glue. Some of the lines needed to be divided into 2, so I just cut slightly through the middle to open up the foam when I heat it with a heat gun. Again, this also helps with sealing the foam. And while the heat gun was still at hand, I warmed up the foam so I could shape it. The ankles have these circles at the side, so I'm cutting them from floor mat foam. Then I also created the circular pattern by cutting halfway through the foam and then heating it up. Once they were finished, I hot glued them to the mannequin. Then I needed to cover up the front and back of the ankles, so I added some foam and designed it to fit the thigh and lower leg. To further thin out the area where the cover meets the leg, I beveled out this section. There are also some panel lines on the cover, which I'm creating by the same process of cutting halfway through the foam and then heating it up. To make sure the foam stuck to the mannequin, I scratched it to create more surface area where the hot glue could stick. Then I spray painted both the ankles and the shins gold, and glued the shins on with hot glue. To cover up the seam, I cut a 2cm strip of 2mm craft foam and glued it to the back. I also cut some further layers of foam that go on top of the ankles. Next, I started working on the thighs, so I started off with a template. Then I transferred the template onto foam and cut it. Before I stuck the craft foam pieces, I marked where I needed to glue them. Once all the pieces were ready, I used super glue to stick the craft foam to the rest of the foam. Some of these strips have panel lines along them, so first I marked the lines and then I cut halfway through the foam. The upper tie wasn't bending enough, so I cut beveled lines at the back of the foam. Then I reattached the foam by pouring hot glue into the lines and bending the pieces together. Unfortunately, I didn't realize the foam details would wrinkle up, so I had to remove the foam and then reattach it. Then I spray painted the whole thing gold and hot glued it to the rest of the mannequin. The ankles have rods at the side, so I started with some foam discs. I hollowed them out from the middle, poured white glue to stick them together, and once they were dry, I cut out a rough circular shape. Then I stuck various circular sizes onto a piece of dowel, so I could have the final result like this. Once all the pieces were smooth, I sealed everything with Mod Podge. To stick the rods to the rest of the ankle, I twisted a piece of wire around the rod and then cut it. I made sure to place the rod at the right angle and I glued it with hot glue. After the legs were finished, I started with the arms, so I designed a template. The arms also have some pinner lines, but these are thinner than the ones on the leg, so I cut thinner strips of craft foam. Once the piece was finished, I put it in place and hot glued it to the rest of the mannequin. Then I covered the seam with a strip of craft foam, and I also put a strip at the end near the elbow. There's a design over here, so I'm using some foam and other scrap material to fill up this area. Instead of using bolts, I found the perfect thing, which is the cap of a nasal spray, so I just cut off the top part and kept the rest aside. The other pieces I made from foam. Then I lined everything up and super glued them in place. A coat of gold paint, and that piece was finished. To create the hands, I'm using the mannequin's own hands, and I'm starting off by painting the palms black. Then I created templates to cover up the fingers. I cut them up from craft foam and made 5 for each hand. Then I warmed them up gently and shaped them. Once the fingers were done, I started off by covering the back of the hand. I used super glue to glue the cover of the fingers and to also glue the front and back of the palm. The fingers needed to be capped off, so I stuck a piece of craft foam to the end and then cut around the finger. Through wear and tear, some of the paint had already come off the hand, so I spray painted some of the paint into the cap and then using a paintbrush, I went over some of the damaged areas. Don't forget to wash your paintbrush with white spirit or thinner, as spray paint is not water soluble and it would ruin your paintbrush. As with all other parts, to do the forearm, I started with a template. I split the template into two parts as I had some smaller pieces of foam and didn't want to just waste them away, so then I hot glued them together. This part is roughly divided into 7 pieces, and the middle part of the red foam is roughly twice the size of the other sections. These sections are divided by thin strips of craft foam, which I then glued on with super glue. There's also a huge panel on the elbow side of the forearm, so I glued a slightly larger piece of craft foam and then cut off the excess. When placing the hot glue, I made sure not to pour some on the hand, as if I needed to take it out, I could easily do it since there would be no hot glue attached to both pieces. I closed off the seam with a strip of craft foam, and then also put another strip at the end of the forearm. Then I cut halfway through the foam to reveal the panel lines when heated up. And that is the first part of the process, so stay tuned to see the second part in about a week or so. When it's finished, it will be somewhere about here. And until you wait, you can always see this video, or better yet, subscribe. If you turn on notifications, you'll be notified when my next video will come up, so you can see the whole process behind C-3PO. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.